Hello, I'm Waffles Are Better. In this video, I will be covering how to make mobs spawn in your custom biome. You probably can't tell, but there is a stray behind me, and also a ravager in this general direction. I really do need to tone down these particles a bit. They're making my computer lag a lot. But in this video, I will cover how mob spawning works, and how to customize the way that mobs will spawn into your biome. So because 1.17 just came out, the first thing I'm going to do is update my pack to 1.17. So first, what I'm going to do, and you should do this too if you are using the Datapack Helper Plus extension that is linked in the description as usual, is go to Preferences and then Extensions. You can also hit Control-Shift-X, and the Datapack Helper Plus. Then click on the little settings thing, extension settings. So you need to change the command version to 1.17, and I think there are a few other things. Yeah, JSON version also needs to be 1.17, and then you need to change the data version. Edit in settings, you want to change this to 1.17, and then save. And that should be good. Let me just go back. Yes, this is now saying that the pack format should be 7, because that is the 1.17 pack format. So the other thing that you'll need to change in Biome is after ambient, I believe there should be underground underscore water underscore creature. And this is for things like glow squids and axolotls. And actually, because the spawners are one of the things that I'm going to be explaining today, I guess we should start on that right away. So the first thing is these different categories. If you don't want to have to consider all of this stuff, then just put the mobs you want to spawn in the categories that you think they should be spawning in. Basically, it's just pretty obvious. So generally, the monster category is for things that you would expect to be in the monster category, like creepers and zombies and skeletons, but also ocelots. And then creature is for all the other animals mostly, so things like cows and pigs and chickens, all those kinds of things. Ambient is for useless things like bats that don't really do anything and just add to the overall ambience of the game. Underground water creatures are glow squids and axolotls. Water creature is for things like dolphins and squids, and water ambient is for fish. The miscellaneous category, I don't think anything actually uses that. I haven't found an example. I could be wrong. But that's just what I've seen. Nothing seems to use it. Then I believe some other things that are affected by the category you choose to put the mob in is that, for example, if you put it in the monster category or the water creature category, and maybe water ambient and underground water creature, although I'm not sure, they will have a chance to spawn every tick, which is a 20th of a second. But if you put them in the creature or ambient category, I think then they only have a chance spawning every 20 seconds. So they will be a lot more rare than the monsters, for example. And also, you know how the ocean is usually full of fish and squids, but you barely have any more friendly mobs like cows or chickens spawn. Another thing that I believe the categories affect are where the mobs will spawn. So, for example, if it's a monster, as long as it isn't something like a drowned, it can only spawn on land and on a solid block, and that same goes for creature and ambient. And then water creature, water ambient, and underground water creature all spawn only in water. I'm also pretty sure that whether or not the creature is actually a monster, if it's in the monster category, it will not spawn, even if it's like a normal animal that you put in there, like a cow or something. This excludes piglins and hoglins. They are in the monster category and they can still spawn, but ocelots are in the monster category and they cannot spawn, even though you can spawn them with a spawn egg in peaceful mode. Then next is creature. I believe creatures need a grass block to spawn on, and the light level needs to be 9 or higher. So that's just the spawning condition for all the cows and sheep and pigs, you know. But I think striders are different, of course, because obviously they spawn on lava. So there are a bunch of mobs that there are specific exceptions for, and you can find those on the Minecraft wiki. In general, they will just be following these basic rules. The ambient mobs, I think, actually don't have that many requirements at all. Yeah, I don't think that ambient creatures have any spawning limitations. But the only creature that I think is put in the ambient category is bats, and bats do have a built-in spawning limitation to have a light level that is less than 4. But I think anything else you put in here will not have to follow that light level. Underground water creature. The wiki doesn't say anything about this, but I'm pretty sure that they need to have a block that is in the tag base stone overworld, so like stone or andesite or diorite or stuff like that, within 5 blocks under them. So basically, they'll only spawn in caves. And then water creature and water ambient, just both need to spawn in water. They have to have a water block where they are spawning, and a water block below, and a water block above where they are spawning. Again, there's built-in limitations, like I think dolphins and squids can only spawn between level 45 and the surface, the sea level, which is 63 or 62. I think that's built into their spawning conditions. So if you put like another mob in here, it probably won't have to follow those rules. I might be wrong. There's not that much documentation about this kind of thing. The last important thing that these categories are used for is mob caps. So each of these categories will have a different mob cap. So basically that means if there are enough mobs that were spawned by the monster mob cap and none of them are killed or despawn, then no more mobs will spawn in the monster mob cap, for example. So the way this works, it multiplies the mob cap constant for each category by the amount of chunks that are available for mob spawning, which is 17 by 17 by default, divided by 289. And because 17 squared is 289, that means by default the maximum amount of mobs that one player can spawn is equal to the mob cap constant. So for monsters, there are 70, so you can have 70 monsters at once. For creature, it is 10. For ambient, it is 15. I couldn't find the number for underground water creature, but the wiki says that glow squids are in the ambient category, which could be wrong. I'm not quite sure that's accurate, but if that's true, then the 15 would include both underground water creature and ambient mobs. Then for water creature, the maximum is 5, and for water ambient, the maximum is 20. Miscellaneous has a maximum of -1, which means there is no mob cap. So the explanation that the wiki gives for this is that misc is used for things that don't spawn naturally or are not mobs, and so to me that sounds like things like armor sands, but I'm not sure why those would be included in the spotter category. So there might just be another explanation that I can't quite find anywhere. But that's all really complicated. All you really need to know is that the monsters will mostly only spawn on any mode that is not peaceful, and they cannot spawn in water, and only 70 of them can spawn at a time. For creatures, they generally need to spawn on grass with a light level that is 9 or higher, and if there are 10 or more in loaded chunks, no more will spawn. Ambient is only used by bats, and there are no spawning limitations except that they can't spawn in water, and more will spawn only if there's less than 15. Underground water creatures can only spawn in water, and as far as I know, they need a block that is in the base stone overworld tag within 5 blocks of their spawning area. Water creatures can only spawn in water, and more will spawn only if there are less than 5. And water ambient are the same thing as water creatures, except more can spawn if there are less than 20. So with the categories explained, the actual mob spawning stuff is pretty easy. So let's just say I want some strays to spawn in my biome. For example, I think I would put those in monster, because I want a lot of them to spawn. Strays are one of the exceptions to the spawning conditions, and they and husks both need sky access to be able to spawn, but that is okay. I can live with them not being able to spawn in caves. So, to make them spawn, you just need to put some curly brackets and drop down a space in between. Then in quotation marks, you want to put type, and then a colon, and then the mob you want to make it spawn. So since I want strays, I'm going to do Minecraft, and then stray. Then you need to add a comma, and then drop down, and then type weight. And so the weight is a number between 0 and 100 and determines how often these guys will spawn. In Notepad, you can see that I've opened the different files for the Crimson Forest, Ocean, Plains, and Mushroom Fields. But right now I'm going to look at the plains spawning, and as you can see, spiders are the most common mob, and they're actually tied with skeletons and creepers. So the weight for spiders and skeletons and creepers is 100 because they are the most common. Zombies are a close second at 95, and if I go all the way down to witch, they are at 5, and that is the same with zombie villagers, which means they are the least likely to spawn. So I think that I'm just going to put my weight at 100. So then after weight, of course, you want a comma, and now you want to specify the min count and max count. And these are pretty simple. It just determines how many of them will spawn together. So for min count, I'm going to put, maybe I want them to spawn in packs of 5 to 7. So I'll put my max count as 7, and that's it. That's really all you need to make a stray spawn. If you want them to always spawn in a specific group size, you can just make the min count and max count the same number. So I'm going to leave everything out of water ambient, water creature, and underground water creature because I don't think I actually want any water in my dimension. I want it all to be frozen. And if there's no water, then nothing can spawn in the water, so there's really no reason to put anything in there. And same with creature. I don't want to put anything in creature because I'm not planning on having any grass, and plus the light level will be too low for them to spawn anyways. But I'm going to try putting something in ambient. I haven't tried messing around with ambient spawners, but I'm just going to try to see how that works. I think I'm going to maybe make Ravagers and Polar Bears spawn, because I want them to be relatively rare. Maybe I'll actually put Polar Bears in the monster category. But yeah, I want to see what happens if I put Ravagers in the ambient category. So again, just type, and then colon, Minecraft, Ravager, and then I want the weight, might as well put the weight at 100 again, because it's not really competing with anything in this category. Min count is going to be 1, and max count is going, oops, I forgot a comma. Max count is going to be 3. Okay, then I'm just going to copy all of this for the stray, and paste it. Change this to polar bear. I'm going to make the weight, maybe I want them to be half as common as strays, so that could be 50. Min count, I'm going to make the minimum count maybe 2, and the maximum count should be 4. Then the last thing that you should take into consideration is spawn costs, and these are used to make certain mobs rarer, like a mob by mob cap kind of. It's a bit confusing, and there isn't really a super great explanation anywhere. But from what I have gathered, basically the way it works is each mob has a specific charge and energy budget. So, like, has an energy budget and a charge that makes it so it applies a specific charge to the area around it as defined by the energy budget. That makes it so no other mobs that would add to the charge around it can spawn in the area defined by the energy budget. So for warped forests, the only other mob that could spawn is Enderman, and because Enderman is the only mob that adds to the charge, it just restricts the amount of Enderman that can spawn. The same is true with ghasts and skeletons in the Soul Sand Valley. So, for example, like if a skeleton is in a specific area, that makes it so ghasts are less likely to spawn around the skeletons. Basically, just controls the amount of mobs that can spawn in the biome. So, for example, if I wanted to add a spawn cost to Ravagers, I would just drop down and say Minecraft Ravager, and then curly brackets and drop down, and then in quotation marks energy underscore budget, and then a colon, and then for Enderman in Warped Forests, this is 0.12, and for Ghasts, Skeletons, Enderman, and Striders in Soul Sand Valleys, this is 0.15. Again, I'm sorry, I don't quite know exactly what this number does, so if I were you, I would just follow what the default vanilla numbers are, because likely those will be what you want. And then you need to put charge in quotation marks. Oops, that's charge. And this is 1.0 for the Enderman in the Warped Forest. And in the Soul Sand Valley, it is 0.7 for all those mobs I mentioned. But I'm not going to add any spawn costs, I'm just showing you how you can. So I'm just going to delete this entire section. So that should be good. Make sure that you save your file. And now this file is almost completely done, and the only thing left is the structures. And I will cover that in a video soon. I just don't want this video to be too long. Alright, let me just hop into the frost. There we go, that was the problem. I was in spectator mode, so nothing was spawning. But here we go, yeah, you got some stray spawning and some ravagers. I don't see any polar bears yet. But I believe ravagers were the ones that I put in the miscellaneous category. Yeah, so that seems to be working just fine. But yeah, currently there are no polar bears. Oh, I bet it's that polar bears only spawn on ice. That's my problem. Okay, I might need to do something about these particles. They're really lagging up my game. It might just be because I'm recording, though. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions about anything I covered in this video, or you have any things you want me to cover in future videos, you can ask me questions or give me suggestions in the comments. And if you want to see my future videos on this kind of thing, I'm thinking of structure generation next, and eventually I will be covering fully custom villages and other structures like that. Then feel free to subscribe. Thank you guys a lot for 50 subscribers. I know that's a pretty small amount compared to lots of other channels, but I really didn't expect to get to 50 subscribers so fast, and I just want to say that I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.